Hi everyone. So this is my first video I'm going to make on this channel, Legacy Silicon, about old computer equipment mostly. It's kind of a funny thing, but the computer that I use every day of my life is now 10 years old, 10 plus years old, and I'm still using it. It's my daily driver. I don't know many other people who are still rocking the 2010 unibody MacBook Pro. 13-inch model, no less, for basically everything I do. Full disclosure, I owned a 2017 model MacBook Pro 13-inch for a while, but after the keyboard failed multiple times, I got rid of it on Craigslist, went back to this one, and I've been using it for a while in 2020. It's been a unique experience, for sure. There are definitely drawbacks to using this old of hardware. But overall, I have a lot of attachment to this computer. I got it when I was in university a long time ago. Split the cost with my parents. I've glued these feet back on, as you can see here. There's a dent right here. It's had a long, hard life, and it's still sort of doing the job in 2020. The specs on it are pretty modest. It's a Core 2 Duo. That's an Intel dual-core processor. I think the Core Duo was the first dual-core processor that they ever used. And then this would be the second generation of that, the Core 2 Duo. I may have that wrong, I'm not sure, somebody can correct me. Then after that was the i-series. So 2011, the year after this one, brought the first i5, maybe i3 Intel processors into these computers, which definitely made them much better, and this one would definitely benefit from an upgrade like that. Things I was able to upgrade are the RAM. It originally came with 4 gigabytes, DDR3 running at I think 1067 megahertz. I doubled that to 8. It originally had a 256, I think, gigabyte hard disk drive. It was just your classic spinning disk. It was definitely much slower, but back in 2010, that was the standard, and the software and the internet and everything just wasn't as demanding, and it was fast enough. It certainly wouldn't work today with an older style disk drive like that. So this, of course, has an SSD in it, which is a really common upgrade for this class era machine. It's a Samsung 240 gigabyte SSD that I installed, I think, in around 2014 or 2015. So, a good 5 or 6 years ago now. Have a look. Unlike modern Mac laptops, it doesn't turn on when you open it. That's kind of just a newer feature that has come about more recently, and it's just not something that happens on these older machines. I always thought that this was a little bit odd because the design of this power button up in the corner never really matched the aesthetic of the keys. Nowadays it seems like the effort is to get a power button that looks a bit more like the keyboard, or just a little more unified design language, but it is kind of cool and a hidden element that they put up here. So I thought I'd give you a sense of the boot up time, what we're dealing with, just in regular open laptop mode. You can tell back here that I do use this in clamshell mode sometimes. Of course, that's the classic Mac chime that turns on. This is probably turned all the way up, so that's why it was so loud. You can see the SSD is really pushing things along here. That solid state drive, wherever it's located, just really moves things along, even with a pretty modern operating system. This is like right before Catalina, I think. It might be, we're gonna have a look when we get in here. Yeah, you can see how fast the desktop came up there. Let's take a look in about this Mac. Might not come up right away because it's opening a few default apps. Oh, actually it came up really quickly. 10.13.6 is one of the very last versions that is supported by this hardware. But yeah, basically High Sierra, got the background and everything here, is sort of the final macOS version that is supported by this legacy hardware. This will push 1080p to a monitor, and it hasn't affected my workflow that much. I do remote access using Microsoft Remote Desktop my work computer, so I've been using this machine since I got rid of the 2017 months ago to access my Windows computer at work during, when we're all working from home, or those of us lucky enough to be able to do our jobs from home are doing that. I've been able to do that with a 2010 MacBook Pro base model in 2020. The battery's sitting at 85%. This is the original battery. It says replace soon. It said replace soon for maybe 4 or 5 years now. Obviously, I don't expect a lot of portability out of this anymore. We're not used to carrying around computers this heavy. I certainly can, and I've taken it to coffee shops, but it nowadays just doesn't really have the battery life to support, you know, full screen brightness and being portable all day long the way a modern MacBook Pro will. Let's open up Safari here. You can see, you know, from a fresh boot up, it opens like this. That's how fast Google came up. If I load something like YouTube, this is kind of the responsiveness that we're expecting from Safari. This version of Safari, you know, running on this hardware. The displays they put into the newer MacBook Pros just have really brilliant kind of colors, and this just looks sort of washed out. The text looks quite pixelated, you know, it's something after only a day or two of use you just get used to, but switching back from a higher res display, it just looks like the most old-fashioned thing you can imagine. It's kind of weird. Something like iMovie is really rough on this machine. Just to prove that it can, I'll make this video on this machine and upload it to YouTube, just to prove that it can be done. I'll try to do it in 1080p. Can't make any promises. I'm looking at the city I live in, Vancouver, BC, in 3D view, and it's just choppy, and the fan hasn't begun running yet, but when it does, it's really going to ramp up. Just from looking at maps on Google. Still totally usable, actually. It just tends to hit a wall at some point when you have enough things open. So yeah, I've already talked for too long, you know, I wanted to keep this video brief, but I do use a 2010 base MacBook Pro with some upgrades, double the RAM, SSD hard drive in 2020, and it's totally usable for basic tasks. I think that's pretty remarkable, a 10-year-old computer. When I bought this and it was new, a computer from 2000 at the time, the year 2000, was not able to function in 2010. It just wasn't a usable machine. But nowadays, 2010 computer in 2020, you can get by. Maybe it's, you know, software that really optimized itself for this older hardware. I don't know, but it works. If there's anything else you guys want to see a 10-year-old computer do in 2020, maybe send me a request in the comments. Share your stories. How old is your machine? Maybe you've got this beat. Maybe you've been actually daily using an older computer than a 2010 in 2020. Let me know in the comments. I'll have some actual legacy hardware in future videos. Oh, and one last thing before I forget. I will be receiving in the mail a 2020 MacBook Pro fairly soon to replace this machine. It's going to be a sad day. 2020, it's an Intel one in the midst of this switch to Apple Silicon. Maybe I should have waited for that, but to be honest, I just really couldn't get this one to do much more for me, and I really needed to upgrade, so I think it's justified, even though Apple Silicon-based Macs are on the horizon. Check out my unboxing of that not-so-legacy Silicon in the next video, that 2020 MacBook Pro, and I'll see you guys in the next video.